Ma's first ashram was built in 1926. Nothing fancy, it was a simple construction with a thatched roof and bamboo mat walls. Mud was also used as a building material. Shasankar Mohan had offered his services to build it and had purchased a small parcel of land at the holy site of Siddheshwari, where until then there had just been a small platform. When the floor was added, Ma gave instructions that it be raised above the small platform, which was only about 2 foot by 2 foot. Thus the platform became a small hollow. A decision was made to hold Basanti puja at the site. Incidentally, Basanti means spring in Hindi and corresponds to March-April time in the English calendar. The Basanti puja is an age-old Bengali festival when people come together to worship the goddess Durga. Friends, relatives, acquaintances and other interested parties were all contacted. Some had to be fetched from places further afield and most were found accommodation at a nearby house. In the 1920s, Dhaka was a much smaller place than it is now, and much of the Siddheshwari area had only recently been claimed from the jungle. Roads were no more than rough tracks, but a few new houses had been built, and it was in a large one of these that the guests were housed. On the morning of March the 21st, 1926, after taking a bath in the pond, Shri Ma gave explicit instructions regarding arrangements for the puja, and then proceeded to the holy site. During the puja, she either sat or lay down in the small hollow that had been left in the floor of the room. This in itself was a miraculous feat, as the hollow was only 2 foot square, and it didn't seem possible for anyone to fit into it. After worship, food that had been blessed was offered to the deity and then distributed as prasad. A feeling of great joy encompassed the group of worshippers as the first day of the festivities drew to a close. There was a minor storm, but not enough to disturb a peaceful night. The next morning, a group of 40 or 50 students from the nearby medical college arrived. It appeared there was not enough prasad to go round. This caused some consternation, but Shri Ma said, "Make them sit down, then start serving from whatever is left in the pot." The others, however, seeing there was not enough to go round, hastily cooked some more khichdi, a dish based on rice and dal. The students were served the leftover prasad first, and it was found there was not only enough to go round, but plenty left over. The 2 pots of khichdi remained untouched. The festivities continued, but by evening it was clear that a storm was brewing. Rain, driven by the powerful wind, lashed at the fragile huts where the puja had been held. The flimsy building began to shake as the gale grew in intensity. The roof rested on a few bamboo poles, and it was clear it was no match for a cyclone. A 12-year-old girl fainted from fear, and several of the worshippers held on to the roof poles, crying out to Shri Ma as they did so. Others prayed fervently for the hurricane to cease. It didn't. Ma sat inside the 2 foot square hollow, her body swaying rhythmically, while outside the hurricane unleashed its wild dance of nature. Still silently swaying, an unnatural laughter emanated from Ma's lips. This upset Bholanath, who almost tearfully pleaded with her, "What is all this that is happening? Please, save us." A man of low caste came through the door. Covered in mud and turning to Ma, he begged not to be turned out. He began to sing with the others, and slowly the fury outside began to abate somewhat. The roof had been blown off, and some branches lay strewn on the ground outside, or at least where there had been ground, for now it was covered with water. A group of kirtan singers arrived from somewhere, and the divine rapture came over Ma. Ma's nephew and niece, Ashu and Lavanya, were both present, along with their mother Pramoda and other members of their family. Since birth, Lavanya had been cared for by Ma. Indeed, Ma had even named Lavanya, which means pure beauty. Labanya was 16 or 17 years old and had often said to Ma that she wanted to live with her again, as she did not enjoy domestic life. However, she was now married with responsibilities. Labanya had never seen her aunt in such a state of divine rapture before, and was wonderstruck at the sight. As Ma was leaving for the Siddheshwari temple with the curtain singers, Labanya cried out, "What has happened to Auntie?" and rushing forward, put both her arms around her aunt. The rain was still lashing down, the wind was howling, and with the sound of the singing, no one noticed Lavanya sink to the ground, repeating the words, "Haribol, Haribol," as she did so. The storm calmed down, and after a while the people dispersed to find dry clothing, while others started to repair any damage. Shashanka Mohan returned to the puja room alone and was astonished to hear a beautiful voice singing the name of the Lord. Utterly spellbound at the sheer beauty of the sound coming to his ears, he listened for a few moments. But try as he may, he could not locate the singer and almost believed it was an ethereal voice he was listening to. Only when he followed the direction of the beautiful sound did he notice Labanya lying in a pool of mud and water. So covered in mud was she that she was almost indistinguishable from the ground she lay on. There was an expression of ecstasy on her face, and she appeared oblivious to her surroundings. She continued to sing Haribol in an indescribably beautiful manner as he picked her up and carried her home to her mother. She was made to bath and change her clothes, all the while singing and trying to roll on the ground in divine intoxication. All those who witnessed this marvelled at her good fortune. All but one, Pramoda, Lavanya's mother, was most displeased, scolding her one minute and then demanding Ma restore her to normalcy the next. Lavanya was unaffected by her mother's angry remonstrations, and turning to Ma said, "Look, Auntie, have I gone mad that Mother should behave in this manner? What else is there except this name of the Lord?" Her mother continued with her negativity, saying, "So this is why you were always so keen to go to your auntie. I won't let you go to her again if you behave like this." Lavanya's answer was to exude love as she continued to sing in her ineffably sweet voice, "Haribol, Haribol." Shri Ma said to Lavanya, "Your mother and other relatives do not approve of this." Laughing, Lavanya only replied that she did not understand what bliss this word brings. Ma took Labanya to another room with Didi accompanying them. Addressing Didi, Ma said, "Look, this state of divine intoxication is coveted by those on a spiritual path, and she has come by it naturally. But what can I do? Her mother is so determined to discourage her." Ma then touched Labanya, and her manner seemed to change, but only temporarily. For a while she was silent, before reverting back to ecstatic singing. Ma added, "Do you see? It is like putting out a large conflagration. You control it at one end, yet the fire bursts out with even greater vigour at the other end." After a period of 3 or 4 days, Labanya did return to her normal condition. Didi had been put in charge of her during this time, and once Labanya said to her, "See, the image of the deity looks just like Auntie." "What nonsense," Didi answered. "The image has 10 arms. Does your Auntie have 10 arms?" "Yes, indeed," Labanya replied with simple conviction. "But she does not reveal herself to everybody. That is why people do not see her as she is." Labanya did not live more than a few years after this episode. Perhaps she had attained all she needed to at an early age and did not require the drudgery of domestic life. Who knows?
Haribol.